with of Sri Bhagavatamrita. It's very auspicious when you approach the temple and there's a pallet of books on the sidewalk. It's always a good sign. I like to see that always. The books are moving in and out because temples are meant to be bases from which we go out to distribute Krishna consciousness, especially in the form of transcendental literature. So these books have just arrived today. This is the brand new printing of the Sri Bhagavatamrita, which is available from the BBT full set for $46 only. And very important book by Srila Sanatana Goswami, which gives the essence of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Hare Krishna. This morning we'll begin by reciting Divinity and Divine Service, which is the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. As my old friend from Wall Street used to say, you never go broke taking a profit. And so the greatest profit in life comes from reciting and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no greater wealth that one can gain. We have a very short amount of time. If you look at a timeline, and if you consider 100 years, and then on the timeline you chop out all the times that you are babbling as a baby, or going for job interviews and working on maintaining the body in various ways, putting out fires and so forth, in old age, there's only a small amount of time to hear and chant. So best to get to it as soon as possible in one's life and take advantage. So this chapter is especially important. There's 34 verses here that if one can learn and take to heart, one can attain the perfection of life. Shall we? Yes. Vyasuvacha iti samprashna samhrishto vipranam romaharshanihi pratipujya vachastesham pravaktum upachakrame sutuvacha yam pravajantam anupetam apetya krityam dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava putreti tanmayatayatara vobinedus tan sarva bhutarayam munyam anatosmi yaksvarubhavam akila shruti saramekam adhyamadipam atitatirshatam tamondam samsarinam karunayaha purana kuhyam tam vyasa sunum upayami gurum muninam narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet munayak sadhu prishtoham vavadbhir lokamangalam yat krita krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati savai pungsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhoksaje ahaitukya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam Dharma Swanushtita Pumsam Vishvaksena Katasuyaha Notpadayed Yadiratim Shrama Eva Hikevalam Dharmasya hyapavargasya nartortayok pakalpate nartasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jiveta yavata. Jivasya tattva jignasa narto yashcheha karma bihi. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. Prameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. Taschadadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya. Pashyantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shuta grihitaya. Atak pumbira dvija shreshta varnashrama vipagashaha. Swanushtis tasya dharmasya sansadir haritoshanam. Tasmadekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam patihi. Shotavya kirtitavyascha dheya pujascha nityada. Yad anudyasina yukta karma kranti nibandhanam. Chindanti kovidas tasya ko nakuryat kataratim. Shushusho shradhanasya vasudeva kataruchihi. Syan mahat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevana. Shrinvatam swah kata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha. Hridyantaksto hyabadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam. Nashta praeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavatyutamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Tata rajastamo bhava kamalobha dayaschaye. Cheta eter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Vidyate hridaya grantish chijante sarva samshayaha. Shiyante chasya karmani drishta evat manishvare. Ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya muda. Vasudeve bhagavati kuravantyatma prasadanim. Saffam rajastamaiti prakriter gunaistar. Yukta para purusha eka ihasya date. Stityadaye hari varinchi hareti samja. Shreyamsi tatra kalu sattvatanonranam suhu. Partivad dharano dhumas tasmadagnis trayimayaha. Tamasastu rajastasmad sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. Pejire munayo tagre bhagavantam batoksajam. Sattvam vishudham shemaya kalpante ye nutaniha. Mumukshavo ghaura rupan hitva bhuta patinata. Narayana kalashanta pajanti yana suyavaha. Rajastama prakritaya samashila bhajanti vai. Pitrir bhuta prajeshadin Shri Aishvarya prajepsavaha. Vasudeve paradeva Vasudeva paramakaha. Vasudeva parayoga Vasudeva parakriyaha. Vasudeva param jnanam Vasudeva param tapaha. Vasudeva parodharmo Vasudeva paragatihi. Sa evedam sasarjagre Bhagavanatma mayaya. Sarasadrupaya chasau Gunamaya Guno Vibhuhu Taya Vilashiteshveshu Guneshu Gunavaniva Antak Pravrishta Abhati Vrignanena Vrajimbritaha Yata Hyavahito Vanir Tarushveka Swayonishu Naneva Bhati Vishvatma Bhuteshu Chatatapuman Asau Gunamayer Bhavir Bhuta Sukshendriyatma Behi Sanirmiteshu Nirvishto Punkte Bhuteshu Tadgunan Bhavayatyesha Satvena Lokan Vai Lokabhavanaha Lilavatara Nurato Devatiryandaradishu Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahansyam Samitayam Pratamaskande Namishyo Prakyane Dvitiyo Dhyayaha Hari Om. Ugrashrava Sutta Goswami, the son of Romaharshan, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas, thanked them and thus attempted to reply. Srila Sutta Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that great sage, Shukadev Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher caste, his father Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, 'O my son!' Indeed, only the trees, which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation, echoed in response to the bereaved father. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Shuka, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggled to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. The occupational activities a man performs, according to are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what is heard from the Vedanta Shruti. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the personality of Godhead. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by rendering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service unto Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood, and fire is still better, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead, due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive the ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world. Those who are serious about liberation are certainly non-envious, and they respect all. Yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods and worship only the all-blissful forms of Lord Vishnu and his plenary portions. In the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. After creating the material substance, the Lord Vasudeva expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. The Lord as Supersoul pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second. The Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Thus, the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Now we'll look at the purport to 33. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta translations of the first canto, second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Divinity and Divine Service. So the human experience is especially meant to cultivate love for Krishna. And from the human body, one can come to the perfection of life, especially the human body. In fact, Krishna says in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that the human form is most dear to him because it provides the most facility for achieving perfection of life. So we can feel very fortunate. You have to look around and notice that you're a human being, because sometimes one may just consider that I'm just moving about, breathing, eating, accepting. I do my daily thing, and I worry about the things that I worry about. And one can consume an entire day, week, month, year, lifetime, simply absorbed in one's life situation, which actually is fairly inconsequential. What's most important is one's cultivation of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all the openings on the body are specifically meant for that, and they can be engaged in bhakti practically by hearing about Krishna, by serving Krishna in various ways. In the system of Gyan, which leads to impersonal liberation, there's an abstinence of the senses, or a way in which they hold back the senses from their objects. But in bhakti, we don't hold back anything, we just add Krishna. Well, the senses can be fully engaged. In fact, it's the most sensual of all experiences. All you have to do is walk into a Hare Krishna temple. People who are used to walking around in very dry environments, like the entire material world, when they walk into a Hare Krishna temple, especially one like in the Dallas temple, you go in there and you can see Krishna's pastimes on the walls. Of course, you can see her also. And it's a very sensual experience. There are things to smell. Not everyone gets to smell a nice flower every day. When you wake up in the morning, people wake up, they slam down a cup of coffee. Some of them inhale some hot smoke, get in a car, listen to people chatter on the radio, all kinds of speculation about what they think might happen or what they thought happened in the past. And then they go to the office, they slam down another cup of cheaper coffee, and then they sit all day looking at a screen working for somebody they don't even know, just hoping that they can get enough to scrape by. So once they walk into a Hare Krishna temple and they get to smell a gardenia that happened to be offered to the lotus feet of Lord Shyamasundar, then it's a sensual experience. And people don't get to smell incense very often. It's prohibited in the material world. No nice smells, just obnoxious smells. But when you smell incense offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, or tulsi leaves, it can transform your heart and mind. So we're lucky. We've come to the process of devotional service by some good fortune, actually by the blessings of devotees. And then so everyone who can come to full cognition that this is the opportunity, and that one can take full advantage of it. It's an exhilarating lifestyle because it means that you can use your full attention and volition to concentrate on the process of devotional service as given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the six Goswamis, passed down and elucidated by the great acharyas, not the least of which is our present founder acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And by that process, one can actually experience what a human being is meant for. And that's pretty nice. It's an overwhelmingly pleasant experience to be in the human form of life and to realize one's potential, to realize its purpose, and then have access to the process by which one can take full advantage of it. There's nothing better than that. So here we are, preaching to the choir, and this verse has always been intriguing to me. We can look at the Sanskrit. It says, Asau gunamayer bhaver bhuta sukshmendriyatma bihi swanirmiteshu nirvishto bhunkte bhuteshu tadgunan. Asau, that Paramatma, Gunamayihi, influenced by the modes of nature. Bhavahihi, naturally. Bhuta, created. Sukshma, subtle. Indriya, senses. Atmabhihi, by the living beings. Swanirmiteshu, in his own creation. Nirvishtaha, entering. Bhunkte, causes to enjoy. Bhuteshu, in the living entities. Tadgunan, those modes of nature. Translation. The Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Let's say together. The Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Purport. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being, Brahma, down to the insignificant ant. And all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. He proposes and the Lord disposes. In another sense, the living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord to be his sons. The sufferings and enjoyments of the sons are indirectly the sufferings and enjoyments of the Father. Still, the Father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering and enjoyment of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma, and so tries to convert the living beings toward real happiness. And then, if you go back to the top of the purport, we'll see a few important points. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being Brahma, down to the insignificant ant, and all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and the gross body. So, it reminds me of a verse from the Brahma Samhita, Yas Twindra Gopam Atavendra Mahosa Karma, Bandhanu Rupa Palabhajana Matanoti, Karmani Nirdahati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is from Lord Indra down to the Indragopa, tiny little insect. all are receiving the results of their karma. And one who is engaged in bhakti is destroying that karma, becoming free from the influence of it. And the next line, the gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses, Gita please, are created according to the desire of the living being. So the science of transmigration is mentioned by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Shariram yaravapnoti yatshap yukramatishvara grihit vaitani samyati vayur gandham ivashayat. So when air passes over a certain substance, it picks up the fragrance. So similarly, the living entity in contact with the various modes of material nature becomes conditioned in a particular way. And so Krishna here in 15.8 says, the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. Purport, here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body which carries the conception of the next body develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling well in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. And then he goes on to describe in the next verse how the living entity takes another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. Thus he enjoys a particular set of sense objects. And in 10, we're still on 15 chapter 9, now we're on 10. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. And then back to the Asau Gunamaya verse, please. So this process of transmigrating from one body to another, again, based on this sentence, the gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. So in a very startling statement, what Prabhupada makes in a lecture, he says that man goes to sleep as a man, and he wakes up as a dog. This, he said, death is like sleeping for some time. He said, imagine you go to sleep as a man and you wake up as a dog. And this is how helpless the living being is due to the force of material nature. Karmana daivanetrena jantur deho papataye stri pravishta udaram pumsareta kanashrayaha. This is a verse in which is mentioned by Kapila Dev, that the living entity is living entity's future is determined by karma daivanetrena, which means there's higher authorities that choose. You don't get to choose. But as we heard in the verse from the Gita, we do have our own volition to choose our activities in this life, and that requires knowledge and practice. One has to become aware of the fact that in human life, one is responsible for one's activities. They'll be accountable. One will be accountable for them, and then engage in the activities that reform one's subtle body. And so devotees, as an example, engage in devotional service throughout their life. And they become attached to Krishna because that's natural. Everyone's actually attached to Krishna, either to his internal or his external potency. But the devotees especially become attached to Krishna's internal potency and to serving Krishna personally. They realize the difference. Kama dinam katina katida palita durnideshas tesham jatamayi na karuna natrapa nopashanti. Utsri jaitanata yarupate samprata labdapuris tam ayata sharanama bayam mam nyungshva madasye. The devotee, when realizing, means labda buddhi. Everyone say labda buddhi. Labda means to gain, and buddhi means intelligence. He gains his intelligence to understand that I've been cheating myself, misusing my independence, and because of that, I've paid a price, a very dear price. I've been under the control of bad masters, lust, anger, greed, etc., who have directed me. But no longer, now I'm giving that up. And his prayer turns towards personal service to the Lord. Utsrijai tanata yarupate samprata labdabuddhis. Tam ayata sharanam. Now I'm taking shelter of Krishna and asking that, please give me some service to you. So when the devotees then come to this very auspicious condition of realizing their real fortune in life is to serve Krishna, and they take up service, then there's a natural purification that takes place. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam, everyone say, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam, tatpratnena nirmalam, hrishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchite. There's a purification, but when one engages one's senses in the service of the master of the senses, then the result is that one's senses become purified. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatpratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesh sevanam bhakti. And one becomes situated in an actual devotional service. And for such a devotee, there's such an overwhelming experience. It's an exhilaration. A word I've been using a lot lately because I really like it, exhilaration. Can you look it up, make sure I'm using it properly? There's an exhilaration just from being alive. Oftentimes, we don't even realize that we're alive, but just realizing that we're alive, and being alive means that we're eternal, because life is eternal. Nasato vidite bhavo, na bhavo vidite sata, ubayorapi drishton tas tvanayos tattvadarshi. The tattvadarshis, those who see the truth, understand that life is eternal. It exists without any interruption. But if I identify with that which is not life, not alive, which is a gross matter, then I also think that I'm not eternal. But when one actually, just the experience of realizing that I exist, and that existence means that I exist forever, is a joyful experience. Prasanatma, one becomes happy that, actually this idea of a tiger chasing me at every minute, it's just a dream. The idea that I'm responsible for this body and that I'm going to die at some point, it's just a dream. What a relief that is. You just want to dance. And prasanatma, you become completely happy. The devotees, even more than that, realize that they have a relationship with the source of all life and the maintainer of all life. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam vyovididhati kaman. There is a person who's overseeing everything and is fulfilling all the desires of every living being. And then I have a relationship with him. I'm actually part and parcel of that supreme. This is true exhilaration, and the devotee becomes overwhelmed with the sense of wanting more and more service. But the more and more service becomes troublesome because this body is limited. It's like a little shell compared to it's like a little dry shell compared to the expansive spiritual body that is actually our natural state. And therefore, even within this life, devotees begin to think that, as Rupa Goswami says, when I chant the holy name of the Lord, I desire to have millions of tongues. And he says, I want millions of ears. These two aren't enough to take in the nectar that's coming from the syllables Krishna. Which syllables? Krishna. Yeah, people heard it last night. They were walking down the street going, dum-dee-dum-dee-dum. I'm going to the restaurant. I'm going to have a bite to eat. And then all of a sudden, Krishna. They, like you can see their soul going, bong, what happened? I just heard something extraordinary. It's just, in 1 second, it wipes out their whole material existence. Just that vibration is Krishna, and they go bang, and suddenly they hear. So the devotee, what to speak, is leaning into the sound and giving up all bad habits just so the subtle can hear the subtle sound, can hear it more and more subtly. They don't want any disturbance. They don't want any kind of intoxicating substance in their veins. They go, was that me, or is that the substance? Was I actually experiencing something, or was it the substance talking? Is this how one cheats oneself through intoxication? You take intoxication and you do something, even if it's a stimulant like caffeine or something, you do something and then think that was pretty good, and you go, yeah, but it was the caffeine, it wasn't me. And so the devotees, they clean their life so they can fine-tune and listen into that sound. And they hear that sound, and then they realize there's a resonance with the sound, and they go, yes, that is the sound of eternity. That's the sound that resonates with my soul, actually. They can tune into it. So when they start to then get a positive taste for it, it haunts them day and night in a positive way. And then their desire becomes expansive, just as much as a materialist's desire becomes expansive for the material world, especially one who realizes that he or she has some facility. You try to expand their influence all over the world. I mean, they have billions of dollars, but they still want billions more. So this is natural for the soul to be expansive, but it's misplaced in the material world. But a devotee then, I want billions of ears. I want more service. And please bring more and more and more. And I want to hear more Bhagavatam. But with the little tiny shell of a body with a couple holes punched in the side, so you can get some light and air and sound coming in. How much can you do? So what happens, as is mentioned in this verse, Asau gunamayir bhavar bhuta shukshmendriyatmabi. It's very subtle. Krishna is there observing all the subtleties because he's the most subtle of all. And he realizes your subtle desire that I want more and more service. So for a materialistic person, it's described in the Gita in the next life, Shotram Chakshu Sparshanam Cha. He gets a custom fit for a body because he was living like a pig. It's like, I want to be more like a pig. So that's the subtle desire. So next life, material nature outfits him like a pig. Okay, you need a little snout. Because little snout, pigs, they keep that snout to the ground 24 hours a day. When they're sleeping, maybe they're dreaming about it, snout being on the ground. But I was once in Delhi at the Delhi temple. It was early in the morning. We were just out there enjoying the morning sun and the chanting japa. And then I heard the most blood-curdling squeals coming from way down in the below. And I went over and I looked over the edge, and there was 3 men. They were picking up this gigantic pig. I guess he had escaped or whatever. I don't know. I didn't even want to speculate. But I'll tell you what was happening. This actually happened. They were picking him up off the ground and put him on a rickshaw to take him somewhere. I don't even, it wasn't a petting zoo, I doubt. But he went crazy. The pig went crazy. And I felt bad for him, and at once I reflected on my own plight here in the material world, that's me. And you take my nose away from sense gratification. And then I started to analyze other pigs, and I could see that they don't like to take their nose off the ground even for a second. Because they're always going and going and going and going. In Vrindavan, you see them constantly. They're just scouring the ground to get something. Their nose is so overpowering. They got that snout because of a subtle desire. and that was outfitted for them out of the grace of the material nature. Just awarded them that. It's not a punishment, it's an award, actually. And so this is the devotee's desire is to always keep his nose in the Bhagavatam. And to expand, I want more service. So what does Krishna do? He says, okay, you have to have a spiritual body. You have to have a spiritual body in order to fulfill these spiritual desires. Because the spiritual body is expansive. It can expand itself into different forms and go. You can be in two places at once and do more service. It's like we're going to Haight-Ashbury today to distribute books. Somebody else is going to where's that other place? San Ramon. It's like, which one do you want to go? I want to go to both of them. Krishna goes, okay, go ahead. You're like, boom, boom, boom. You're knocking on the door at the same time. You're on the street. I mean, this is the desire of the soul. It's like unlimited. This is happiness. Ananda is ever increasing desire for service. So Krishna facilitates that because he facilitates everything, and he can do it because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's nothing limited about it. So Prabhupada goes on to say that the gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. So one has to be aware of one's desire. What is it that you want? Because I love, Sridhar Maharaj says, read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not a religious fanatic. He's simply informing you of the facts. He's laying out how the material nature works, and he's so kind and compassionate, he gives you free will and says, okay, now please you decide which would you like. Giving you a responsibility. It's a little bit of pressure, but in the end it's worth the reward. Then he says, the Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. That's sad, kind of, in a way, because there's a way in which, not from the perspective of the Lord, but from the living entity who becomes hapless and thinks that material fulfillment will actually make him happy. And this is the vision of devotees. When they realize the goal of life and they're experiencing it for themselves, which, by the way, I was just reading in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jiva Goswami says, even in sadhana bhakti, even as one begins the process of devotional service, one can have glimpses of the higher stages of devotional service. It's not that we remain blind to the reward of performing devotional service, but one, even in the very beginning stages, can get jolts of taste, if there is such a thing, for the higher stages of devotional service. So, the Lord as Paramatma helps the living being. The devotees feel compassion for those who desire the wrong things. They feel compelled to help other living entities adjust their desires. That's why, for instance, last night we went out to Lytton Park, Lytton Square, Lytton Plaza. Lytton Plaza. Is it Plaza or Plaza? Okay, Plaza. So Lytton Plaza, and we were deliberately there broadcasting the chanting of the holy names so that people could hear it. And then I watched as we were sitting chanting. There were adults, kids, everybody introducing literature to people. There were people standing there captivated by the sound, and then a young 12-year-old would walk up and say, hi, how you doing? And you should read this, handing them Bhagavad Gita, and people would take it and they walk away with it. And because human beings have a proclivity for knowledge. When I was writing my book, Navina Nirada Prabhu wrote me some brilliant passages, as observations that I could add to the book. And one of them was that if you go anywhere and you notice that people are after chit, they want some knowledge, they want a little chit, so that they all have their noses buried in something, like a book, a magazine, or nowadays a little screen. They're looking at stuff, little lines of code. It's like a little code for the robot to look at. It's like, I want a little more code. What do you want? code, just reading, and they're taking information in, because it's the nature. We have that tendency to want knowledge. And so I saw people taking these literatures and walking away, and it feels extremely satisfying, because you see that by introducing all these things, the vibration of the holy name, the transcendental literatures and so forth, people will reform their desires. The subtle living entity who's within the body, who's become overwhelmed by desires for material enjoyment, doesn't know there's anything else, suddenly in one line, in one sentence, and with an overwhelming experience of hearing Hare Krishna and seeing devotees dancing like this, and they're like, oh my God, this is something. The soul just wakes up all of a sudden. Yadabhaso pyudyan kavalita bhava dvanta vibhavo drisham tatvandanam api dishiti bhakti pranayanim. Rupa Goswami notes this fact. He says, when a person who's completely blind to the truth hears Hare Krishna, they suddenly become aware of bhakti, magically. It's magic. And so the devotee becomes consumed with this when he or she realizes that this is the ultimate happiness, to be engaged in bhakti, and that service to Krishna means to help awaken others to this happiness of the performance of bhakti, and then there's an available means to do so. The devotee practically goes crazy with desire to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. This is a kind of, Prabhupada says, samadhi, or full absorption in devotional service. I mean, think about it. It's the most intimate thing that one can do to serve Krishna. He says so in the Bhagavad Gita. Someone who's preaching my message, he says, there's no one more dear to me in this world than that person. I mean, come on. That's so clearly printed right there in the Bhagavad Gita, right at the end. And one could read that and then become, feel compelled to take that up as one's life's mission. Let me do that. Let me organize my life around that principle. So all at once, the devotees realize that they're pleasing Krishna through this kind of service, however imperfectly they may do it, and that the Paramatma is involved when they're approaching people, giving them an opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness, because he's right there overseeing the whole thing. And then finally, he proposes and the Lord disposes. In another sense, the living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons, which is big news. The sufferings and enjoyments of the sons are indirectly the sufferings and enjoyments of the Father. Still, the Father is not in any way affected directly by the sufferings and enjoyments of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma and always tries to convert the living being toward the real happiness. Yeah, he always tries to do that. So if you help him out, then he becomes especially pleased. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Now let's look at the verse again. I just want to look at the Sanskrit, please. And we just look at the verse. Asau, that Paramatma, Gunamaye, influenced by the modes of nature, bhavai, naturally, bhuta, created, sukshma, subtle, indriya, senses, atmabhi, by the living beings, swa nirmiteshu, in his own creation, nirvishta, entering, bhunkte, causes to enjoy, bhuteshu, the living entities, tad gunan, those modes of nature. And then the translation is, the Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. So, having taken in the possible implications of this verse, now we'll take some reflections or questions. 1, 2. Or 1, 2. whoever gets the mic first, I guess.
So, thank you, Prabhuji. So, here in this we say that the Supersoul influences the living entity to enjoy the subtle modes of nature. Then one might question, why is the living entity being subject to when Lord is influencing them?
Well, he's just facilitating, because the living entity desires in a certain way, so he's helpless without the Lord. And this is the way in which Krishna provides free will to the living entity. Free will means he has to have a choice, and he has to have facility to execute it. It's like if you say you do whatever you want, but you can have, like Ford, when he first came out with the car. He was the first one to come out with a car, and mass produced them. Actually, there were others that produced individual cars, but Ford learned how to mass produce them. Divisions of labor had a whole system for mass producing. So he kept it a little simple, and he said, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. So that's not free choice. So Krishna makes sure that there's free choice, to the extent that if you desire to forget him, or if you desire to do something else besides what is in your best interest, he'll provide you the facility. And he'll also give you the intelligence to do it. In fact, as unusual commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, speaking about why it is that devotees don't always get an immediate taste for chanting Hare Krishna. One of the reasons, he says, is that Krishna withholds the taste. And that is so he doesn't discourage people on the paths of jnana and karma. Because if the devotees all of a sudden just started chanting and they're like, okay, I'm perfect, then they would become discouraged from their path. And they want their path. They want a different path than bhakti. That's where they're at. And so Krishna, he is the architect of the entire landscape for the living entity, to give them full facility to enjoy in the way they wish. As the whole material world is a dreamland. And he provides all kinds of ideas like, here's an opposite sex. It's not really. It's a fake out. It's not really an opposite sex. It's just the external feature of that. And it's like, whoa. But it's like, that's a fake out. But it's a dreamland, and he makes it as real so the living entity can enter into it and say, yeah, I'm really enjoying something here. And that's his facility. That's his love for the living entity, to give that freedom. And so when one actually takes the full facility of human life and fortifies oneself, the faculties of knowledge to be able to discern what is permanent, what is temporary, and then understands I have a relationship with Krishna, and there is male and female, but it's on a different level. It's the adiras. And then he begins to pursue that. Woo! That's something, and that's fully available. And then Krishna gives full facility for that, in whatever direction the living entity wants to go. But he actually desires that the soul's ultimate good, because he's a part and parcel. He's a son, but he doesn't interfere. Is that correct? Hare Krishna. Harinama Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Two things struck me. The first one is that in the beginning you said you described someone. You said you can be working for someone you don't know, and so if the corporation you work for is on the stock exchange, there are people who own the stock and you actually work for them, but you don't know them. Yeah. So that's a very covered form of impersonalism. So that really struck me.
Yeah, I was sitting one day in Vrindavan. At Govardhan, we have such an ideal life because everything's just everything's sublime. It's Govardhan, but our whole purpose of being there is to hear the Bhagavatam just constantly, and to be in the atmosphere of Vrindavan. And it's an ashram life, so we have no other business for that month to live in the ashram life schedule, and that's like clockwork. That's good for the senses anyway. When you have everything regulated. Some people think this is some kind of drudgery, why can't you just, why do you want to be a monk? Why do you want to do all this stuff? And because by regulating the senses, one can actually go deeply within and observe oneself without the disturbance of the senses having to try to figure out what to do next. There's a regulated schedule, and part of it is the most joyful time of day is when everyone comes together and sits in the same hallway together to take prasadam. We face each other. It's a long hallway, and line up on both sides. And then there's somebody who cooks and offers the prasadam, and then there's devotees who serve out the prasadam. We all just sit down and take. So one day I was sitting there and I was appreciating the prasadam very deeply, and then I thought, I don't even know where the kitchen is. I don't even know who's in the kitchen. I don't even know who made this. I'm appreciating it, but where did it come from? And then I was thinking, this is possible in the material world. Just, I'm getting all these facilities. There's fruit trees and water and air and everything freely available, and it's really nice. You take a deep breath of air, and you go like, "That's really nice. I really appreciate it." There's so much intricate thoughtfulness that goes into the whole material world. But I'm just sitting there, and I go, "Oh, I don't even know where it's coming from. I don't know who's behind this." And so when I went and I said, "Where's the kitchen? And who's cooking? And who's?" I looked in there, a smiling face, and the Haribol. And I got to meet the cook, and then I had a much different experience, an appreciation. But my main realization was I can go in ignorance of whatever facilities I have and just ignore it. Ignorance means ignorance. I'm ignoring stuff. Hey, what does exhilaration mean, by the way?
Exhilaration means a feeling of excitement, happiness, or elation. For example, they felt the exhilaration of victory.
Okay. Would you use it in a sentence? Give her the mic. Exhilaration. You can call a friend, help.
I feel exhilarated by chanting.
Oh. Okay. Now can you spell it? I've seen these spelling bees, and the Indian kids always win, so no pressure.
EXH.
Wow.
ILA.
You're almost there. ER. I can feel the suspense in the room. The heart like pounding. It's exhilarating.
EXHILARATION.
Is that correct? Okay, give her a hand. Exhilaration. Okay, any more reflections or questions? Yes.
I just wanted to add on to the exhilaration. The origin of it's from Latin, where from the word exhilare, which means to gladden. Exhilare.
To gladden.
To gladden. Yeah.
Yeah, prasanatma.
Yeah. Or to.
And life is actually life. The condition of life is a condition of exhilaration, and anything else means that I'm not seeing my life, I'm seeing something separate from my life. I'm vesting my consciousness in dull matter, and I'm thinking, this is me, this is my obligation to be a piece of dull matter. Yes?
Yeah. So Maharaj, I was thinking about your comment on the pigs and how they have the snout to the ground all the
Yes.
time. And you also mentioned sort of that we should have our noses in Srimad Bhagavatam the same way. So I went to the internet to see how long do we have to do that. So I came across a website which is called Pig Whisperer, you have horse
Pig
whisperer.
Whisperer.
And so that it said that pigs spend about 75% of their daily activity is with their snouts to the ground. So
75%. And the other 25?
75. Maybe they sleep.
Okay. Yeah, they spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
So we should spend 75% of our time with our nose in the Bhagavatam.
And I was thinking of the term pig whisperer, and I've also thought about soul whisperer. And I was thinking that the Maha Mantra is actually a soul whisperer. Anta, it goes into your heart and cleans it like that.
Yeah. Nice.
I was just thinking about the same pig analogy that you gave. Sometimes we scream and we ask Krishna so many insistently that I want this, I want that. But then we say that, oh, I got this prayer answered, and we think that we are great. We executed something or some potency, mystic potency. But I was just saying that Krishna satisfies the desire even for the pig. But how much insult it is for the soul to take that form. And suppose if I am envious of somebody and I take the form of a pig and they are in a human form and they see that I am a pig, what an insult it is. So I was just thinking how important it is for us to realize that that's not where we have to be, and be very thoughtful in our actions in Krishna consciousness.
Yes. It's a life of acute awareness of our purpose and our real nature.
I just liked hearing the Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam verse again. Somehow I was trying to imagine myself without any upadhi, any designation, and it was kind of weird, that I'm from this country, or this is my name, this is my last name. In fact, upadhi we use in Bengali as for the last name, anybody's last name, we call it as upadhi.
Upadhi. It's interesting.
So it was a little weird, but then I was thinking, okay, that is the desired state when our only upadhi is servant of Krishna.
Yes, it's the example is given about these upadhis, and you have a clear crystal, and then if you put a red rose next to it, then the crystal becomes colored. It picks up all the pigment of the rose and absorbs it from the light spectrum. It becomes pinkish or reddish. And so by my association, various modes of nature, which means various kinds of other living entities who are infected by the modes of material nature, by that association, Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangosya Sarasad Yoni Janmasu. I take on those qualities, and then that determines my destination. And the process of spiritual life is we should be fully aware of our upadhis. In the chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita regarding the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada quotes his spiritual master in a long passage talking about how much aware one should become of the various kinds of upadhis or designations that one has, the kind of influences that one has acquired, influences that shape one's activities, habits, consciousness, and so forth, and be deliberately engaged in purifying those. I'm trying to remember, I just read it's a real identity. Oh, what was it we read the other night? It's just that you think you brought it up, there's so much happiness in the real ego. In the false ego, I'm unlimitedly bogged down by these false designations, but when one realizes one's real ego, which is I'm a servant of Krishna, then there's only happiness. And this is the state of complete purification is coming to one's real identity. I'm a servant of Krishna. Yes.
So I just wanted to add to the comments from both Gandharvika Mataji and Shyamlangi Mataji. So Gandharvika Mataji was talking about the insult to the soul when it takes the body of a pig. And I was just thinking that the sad part is that the soul, when in the body of the pig, doesn't realize that. It still does whatever a pig, does like that. Yeah. And then about the upadhis, I was just thinking that there are last names which designate like Tripathi or Trivedi, that you have read three Vedas. So it's indeed like, getting the upadhis there. And especially in Bengal, we have Bandopadhyas and Chattopadhyas, which has the word upadhi in it. Yeah.
Most names do. It gets obscured over time. Even you have in the Christian names, they have various meanings. If you trace it out back, what was the person's occupation, what kind of caste they were in the society, and so forth. It's an interesting observation about upadhis. I really like that one, and especially because our name, as Satyadev Prabhu likes to say, as soon as you're born, they slap a name tag on you. It's like, here you go, Schnicky. It's like, my name's Schnicky. It's like, 5 minutes ago, I was just a soul coming out of the womb. It's like, welcome to the world. You go through a processing line. It's like, here's your name tag, here's your little bag, because you're going to go to school later. And you'll assume all these different designations throughout life. And then basically, you drop them all behind at death. It seems ludicrous even when one's leaving the world, that how did I associate with all these things? Nonetheless, it's interesting in context of this verse, even at the time of universal cataclysm, after the soul has been absorbed in the body of Mahavishnu for eons, and then is again released into the material environment, Supersoul is there to remind him of where he left off in his last life. So, like, remember, he wanted to do this and that. He reminds him of his desires. So he's making that facility for everybody. Yes, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry, were you to make a comment? I covered it. Okay, Radhakripa.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. To your comment about when you were appreciating the food, the prasadam in the Govardhan, I was just reflecting about yesterday's event. I came early yesterday to the temple, and yesterday when during the Harinam, Nilesh Prabhu and we just spoke for a second, and we said this is the perfect feeling. We call it in Hindi, we use the word jam gaya. Jam gaya means everything is really superb. But then to your point about what went really behind the scene, who is really doing it, because I came earlier yesterday, I saw Jagannath Prabhu was packing all the stuff in a full van. I said, can I help you? So he said, no, it has to be done in a particular way, otherwise it won't fit in. So there's a lot of, the things which is going behind that. I saw Nilesh Prabhu was charging, Ramananda Sakar Prabhu was helping me, this is the right way to fine tune it. And Prashant Prabhu was, waiting for his own work to do. So all this thing, as you could connect back, I could feel that I could more appreciate as you were thinking. So just was reflecting on that part.
Yeah, it's a nice point. And also, I noticed that those devotees that were doing all that work and may not be in the forefront of the whole thing, they're happy. Because I've seen Nilesh, he's always there, making sure everything works, and he's very interested to see how it turns out. Yeah, when you get a vested interest in the devotional service and how it's working, and then you see the effect that it's having on people, Krishna reminds you that, yes, you're part of this, you set this up. So they're getting this inner reward. This devotional service has this constant and ever-increasing, one's getting a constant and increasing reward from Krishna within. And there's a way, there's Nirupati Vaishnavas. They don't have a designation. It's kind of, I was talking to Kesha Bharti Maharaj about this As he's done a lot of work, a lot of service where he's sort of an unknown, because he's editing, hours worth of work. But then, his name might just be like mentioned in a little fine print somewhere in the beginning of the book. It's not on the front cover. It's like, hey, there's the guy. And when we were working on my book, our family business, and Rabindra Prabhu got involved. He was talking to Keshav Bharati Maharaj, and he says, yes, you're in a unique category doing service of the, I think it was like the unknowns. This is kind of the Nirupati Vaishnavas. They're here, there, and everywhere. Not a big designation, but they feel satisfied. They're just doing their service without looking for any special reward. Of course, there's also a challenge for being a front person as well, because that's also a service somebody has to do, and that has unique challenges. But we can appreciate also this Nirupati. And whether one's a front person or a back person, one should cultivate the mood of Nirupati, that I don't have any designation, I'm just a servant. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his biography called the Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, a beautiful book, excellent, everyone should read, that there was a brahmachari or sannyasi who was getting really successful in one of the Gaudiya mats. His preaching was really expanding, lots of people were coming, and some of the other devotees felt a little bit challenged by him because of his success. This happens sometimes. So they went to their Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and they said, we think this, we know he's getting success and everything like that, but I think it's just, he's into the name and fame. He's attached to this success. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called him in and said, okay, I'm relieving you of your service. I'm moving you. And he mentioned some place off in Timbuktu where he was going to send him. And he said, okay, Maharaj, thank you. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, okay, you can stay. And so one should test oneself and see, what is it I'm attached to, and make sure that even in the process of devotional service that they're nirupati. I'm not taking some designation here. Everyone should feel I'm the servant of the servant of the servant. I see Bhakti Marg Swami, wherever he goes, he'll go out of his way to do kind of the services that everyone thinks, oh, that's for the new bhakta, he'll do it. And everyone's like, Maharaj, you can't do that. And he says, why not? Why can't I? Aren't I part of the program here? And, it's the mood of Prabhupada also, that he would, there was a story of him in an airport lounge, and somebody came in and made an announcement, or informed one of the devotees that they were blocking, and all the devotees had to move. So one of the devotees announced that the devotees are going to have to move, so Prabhupada would get up to move. So, not you, Prabhupada. He's like, why? I'm a devotee too. So there's this Nirupati mood, which is very sweet. Actually, advanced devotees realize that taking on certain designations for the wrong reasons can be very crushing and can actually debilitate them, and their ability to debilitate them and prohibit them from the full taste of chanting the holy names. You sure? Okay. Okay.
And I was just going to go back to the pig analogy again.
Pig's popular today.
So you mentioned that, most of the time they're just sniffing around, and the other time they're not sniffing around, they're thinking of the food. And I was just thinking that, the process of the bhakti is also such a beautiful that when you're not involved in the service, you're still thinking of the service, or you're being with the devotees. And I was just thinking, that reminded me of Srila Prabhupada's point that it's not like one has to think of Krishna, but one thinks nothing but Krishna. So
yes.
I was just mentioning.
Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you should live in the holy dham. You should always reside there. And if you can't do so physically, you should do so within your mind. And so this can be attained. One can attain this internal connection to Krishna where one's always thinking about devotional service. I want to read you something from the Bhagavatam, since we are all here together. This is from the 11th canto. And this is just Maharaj Nimi has met the 9 Yogendras and has inquired from them. And his inquiries, there's 9 Yogendras, so he asks each one of them a specific question. And he's hearing right now from Havi Yogendra. And so Havi Yogendra says, this is 11.2.43. My dear king, the devotee who worships the lotus feet of the infallible personality of Godhead with constant endeavor thus achieves unflinching devotion, detachment, and experienced knowledge of the personality of Godhead. In this way, the successful devotee of the Lord achieves supreme spiritual peace. Purport is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Vihaya kamam ya sarvan pumam sharati nispriyaha nirmamo nirahankara sashanti marigachiti. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, and who is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Srila Prabhupada comments, to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. There is a similar statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19.149. Krishna bhakta nishkama taiva shanta bhukti mukti siddhikami sakaliya shanta. Give Shamalangi the microphone.
Krishna bhakta nishkam অতএব শান্ত ভক্তি মুক্তি সিদ্ধিকামী সকলই অশান্ত.
Haribol. Because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruit of workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. Generally, there are 3 classes of living entities afflicted with selfish desire. These are the bhukti-kami, mukti-kami, and siddhi-kami. Bhukti-kami refers to those ordinary persons who desire money and everything money can buy. Such a primitive mentality is based on the desire to enjoy money, sex, and social prestige. When a living being becomes frustrated with this hallucination, he takes to the path of speculative philosophy and analytically tries to track down the source of illusion. Such a person is called mukti-kami because he desires to negate material illusion and merge into an impersonal spiritual state free from anxiety. The mukti-kami is also motivated by personal desire, although the desire is somewhat more elevated. Similarly, the siddhi-kami, or the mystic yogi who desires the spectacular powers of mystic yoga, such as reaching one's hand across the world or making oneself smaller than the smallest or lighter than the lightest, is also infected by material or selfish desire. Therefore it is said, Shokuli Ashanto. If one has any personal desire, whether it be material, philosophical, or mystic, he will be ashanta, or ultimately frustrated, because he will see himself as the central object of satisfaction. This egocentric concept is in itself illusory and therefore ultimately frustrating. On the other hand, Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataiva Shanto. A devotee of Lord Krishna is Nishkama. He has no personal desire. His only desire is to please Krishna. Lord Shiva himself has praised this outstanding quality of the pure devotee of the Lord by stating, Narayana paraksarve nakutashana pipyati swargapavarga narakeshu apitulyarta darshinaha. A person who is devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, is not afraid of anything. Elevation to the heavenly kingdom, condemnation to hell, and liberation from material bondage all appear the same to a devotee. Although the impersonalist philosopher proposes that everything is one, the devotee of the Lord is actually tulyarta darshi, or empowered with the vision of oneness. Tulyarta darshi. The devotee sees everything as the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore desires to engage everything in the service of the Lord for the Lord's satisfaction. Since the devotee does not see anything as dvitiya, or outside the scope of the Lord's potency, he is happy in any situation, having no personal desire. The devotee of having no personal desire, the devotee of Krishna is actually shanto, or peaceful, because he has achieved the perfection of life, love of Krishna. He is actually situated in his eternal constitutional position under the direct shelter and protection of the omnipotent Parameshwar Krishna. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, this verse ends the answer given by the first of the 9 Yogendras Kavi to Maharaj Nimi's first question, what is the highest good? So one can discover what is the highest good just by reading the previous 42 verses plus this verse, and you'll have a clear idea, which is very important because it's in everyone's self-interest to know what is the highest good and how to attain it. And that's all expressed here. And so one of the main points here that one can experiment with in one's own life, because after all, life is an experiment in consciousness, because we're conscious living entities, and when you get to the human form of life, you have an adequate laboratory in which to experiment with consciousness. You can try this experiment, and that is to see that by putting Krishna's desires first, and when one can investigate how the best practical ways to do that, how one feels about oneself afterwards. And then one, by contrast, can also notice if one's putting oneself first and how one feels in that situation. And counterintuitively, when one becomes a giver, becomes a selfless giver, that is, offers his or her service to Krishna without any expectation of reward, and serves the devotees who are very dear to Krishna in that same way, one gets everything that one thought one would get by pursuing material sense gratification. But when one pursues material sense gratification and tries to get everything for oneself or put oneself in the center, one gets just the opposite. It's crazy. But this is information that everyone should have. Oftentimes, not oftentimes, we notice as a general rule that people appreciate these principles. For instance, if you ask people if it's better to give or receive, what will they say? It's better to give. And this has been experimented with. I wrote about it in my book. There was a study of college students across Canada or America, or Canada and America. I don't know what the exact study was, I can't remember. But in any case, they interviewed thousands, tens of thousands of students and asked them better to give or receive. And by a huge margin, everyone said to give. So there's an intuitive way in which we understand that we are servants and that we can become happy, and it's noble to actually serve. So in the right context, people don't have the right context because they serve and they have bad masters, and they say, well, why would I do that? And they become cynical. For instance, over time, because of the history in Europe, people have become against having monarchs and kings because they feel that and rightly so, that they've been exploited, and people have misused their trust. And therefore we have in America a kind of culture in which people don't trust authorities so much. So we've formed a sort of government here with checks and balances to make sure that despots don't run wild. and just do whatever they want at any time. Stop smiling. Okay, and so, but that's and then also there's a way in which that science has broken away from theology. It used to be a singular discipline, but now it's completely separated, and in the academies everywhere, speaking about God is okay, just as long as you speak about Him as an abstract theory or it's an intellectual comparison between way people interact sociologically or psychologically and so forth. But if you bring up the fact that there is a God, I have faith in Him, or you should have faith in Him, then you'll be expelled. And so all this has created an environment in which it's not normal to give oneself selflessly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still there are ideas in secular humanitarianism that there's secular humanism that it's good to do service for others and so forth. It's a pervading thought. But if one makes it, if one can have well-reasoned faith in giving one's service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for example, because as the Bhagavatam says, He's the root of the tree, and by serving the root of the tree, then the branches and leaves will become satisfied, and one can identify oneself as a part and parcel of Krishna, then what is to stop one from giving one's full service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And from that, experience a complete satisfaction as being mentioned in this verse. That's a real question. What's to stop one? Maya? Means what? Give him the microphone, he'll explain.
Maya means illusion.
And in the context of, one may know but doesn't act upon it. Was that what you were responding to?
Tell you the truth, I was actually somewhere else. I just heard the question. My mind was somewhere else.
In Govardhan?
Yes.
I thought so. You've been absorbed in that a lot lately. So now, yes.
So, Prabhu, in this purport, I like the term primitive mentality.
Yes.
And I was just remembering that at one of our programs, there was this manager at Google, and he comes very regularly to the programs, and he was saying, when I was young, my grandfather said, I'll go to school, and then you go to college, and then you go to work, and then you'll make so much money, and you have a beautiful family, and that'll be the end, and you would have reached, heaven at that point. And he said, I've done all of those things and much more, yet I've pursued something which has not given me any happiness. And so I was just thinking that by pursuing, it's a very evident purport in and of itself, because people actually experience that they find no satisfaction in pursuing this mirage. And so here, becoming Shanta is really in this process of, discovering the real essence,
Yeah. Well, it also points to the fact that when you go out to teach Krishna consciousness, you get back from the people you're talking to a lot of anecdotal evidence that substantiates what's being mentioned in the Shastra, because we hear about these things, and then people who haven't studied Krishna consciousness will verify them and say, yes, I'm looking for something more, even though I've reached the top. It tends to help one stay focused on Krishna consciousness, because then you either see that people are unsatisfied by material pursuits, even though they've attained a modicum of success, or that they're obviously making fools of themselves by endeavoring. For instance, often see people trying to, I just felt it last night when I came onto that University Avenue. I was just observing how people were dressed for Friday night. And there's a lot of outrageous styles, because I saw this one woman, she was wearing shoes where her feet were pointed like straight down to the ground like this. and they're like strapped onto her ankles, and she's walking along, and I was just thinking that it's a great endeavor. I mean, all of it's a great endeavor to try to maintain the charade that there's some kind of happiness out there, and I'll dress so that I don't know what. Well, I actually do, but it's just it becomes kind of, from somebody coming from an environment of cultivating knowledge of the self and selflessness, selfless service, and so forth, and seeing the body as a vehicle and so forth, to come into an environment where people are overtly promoting that body as something like desirable in and of itself. It's kind of like a bizarre parade or something like that, of people walking by, exhibiting bizarre kinds of it's a bizarre exhibit of materialism. Did you see that last night? The bizarre exhibition? Jeev jago, Gaura Chandra bole. Kota nidra jao maya, Pisha chirakole. Kota Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Baji baboliya Sangsara vitare. Bhuliya rohile tumi abhijara bahare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tomare loite ami hoinu avatara. Ami bina bandhu aro ke ache tomara. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ene Chia Shaudhi Maya Nashi Bharo Lagi. Harinam Mahamantra Lao Tu Mi Magi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thakur Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu Charane Poriya. She Hari Nama Mantra Loilo Magiya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Is Vedant here? Where is he? Could you bring him in? I'd like to get his opinion of the Harinam. He's one of the most interesting characters I've ever met. You never know what he's going to say or do next. Is he coming? We're thinking of making a little book called The World According to Vedant. He's not shy either. He doesn't mind. Come on up here, Vedant. Right over here. So I was curious about what you thought of the Harinam Sankirtan yesterday. Any observations from the program we had last night? What did you think of it? What did you see? Any thoughts?
It was a big hit.
Was it? Any specific things that you saw that you particularly thought made it a big hit?
There was a big crowd.
Yeah. Any observations about the crowd? Who was in the crowd? What were they saying, thinking, doing? You see anything?
A lot of people took books.
A lot of people took books, yeah. Did you sell any books? You were watching the devotees sell books? What services were you doing?
Singing Kirtan.
Singing Kirtan. Nice. Any thoughts for improvements? Any ways that you could see that it could be improved? We could do a better job overall?
I don't know.
Nothing right now? Okay, think about it. We'll get back to you later. I want to thank you very much for being there. You and all the other kids, I noticed that people notice you, all the kids, because you're bright, effulgent, and unusually musically talented as well. It's a really beautiful thing. People notice kids, and your presence there makes a big difference. So thank you very much. Thank you, Vedant. I think he'll make a good spokesperson for our cause. So now we are going to have a first grain ceremony. And in our first grain ceremony, we're going to chant the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita today. So that way you get a free space for your chad today, which is a good idea. Everyone should do chad. It means chant at least one chapter of Bhagavad Gita a day. In the next couple of minutes, while they're coming, we'll take any feedback from the mini festival last night, Chant and Be Happy. I noticed that we were giving bands away to the people. Shamalungi's here? Yes. How did it go with distributing bands? We banded people with this little blue band that said Chant and Be Happy on it.
Honestly, I did not. I know devotees distributed because when I took them back, I saw there were much fewer than what I got.
Who gave out bands? Anybody banding people last night?
Yeah.
How'd it go? Tell us about it.
It's a really good way to attract people. So they start talking to you, and then you give them a lollipop, and then they start taking small books, and then you give them a Bhagavad Gita. And then you give a donation.
And the band comes at the end?
No, band comes at the beginning.
The beginning. Oh, I see. That's how you attract them over. They like to get a band?
Yeah.
They liked it, huh? And what was your experience? Who else was giving out bands? Yes.
The band color is so attractive. It was itself in the the table, and students were coming here. Can I have that? They were not interested in looking at the book at all, but just band. So that was real nice.
Yeah. I had a brother-in-law that was he loved birds, so he was an expert at birds. He'd go all over the world and watch birds. One of the things he did at Point Reyes Bird Observatory, there's a center up there for watching birds. He was a scientist, and they catch birds in this little net. Apparently didn't harm them, but then they put a little band on their leg, a tiny little aluminum band with the serial number, and then they'd be able to track the birds. Didn't have a chip in it or anything like that, but they'd catch them again a couple of years later and be able to tell their migration and things like that. So that's kind of what we're doing, banding people up. We'll see them here, there, and everywhere. Oh, you were at the Harinam. But it's a nice reminder that people were there. They kind of feel part of something. It's a small thing, but it can make people feel included. And now we have the star of our show, who's just arrived for his first grains. And we'll continue the conversation afterwards about improvements to the Harinam. I just want to mention that the new fluorescent signboards, and they were, who did the artwork?
So the drawing with the Mahaprabhu and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that was done by Kameshwari Mataji. And the other, which was like chant and be happy, the signboard, that was done by Vraja Vilasini, Vrindavan Priya Prabhu's wife.
Yeah, that was really a nice addition, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, it's very beautiful. So we're working on making constant improvements and making it into a unusual experience that people can walk into. Thank you for all the... Yes?
And Hare Krishna. And I should thank you very much for the Facebook live streaming. It was really good. And sitting at home, I was able to watch everything happening. And one thing I observed is the way we are distributing prasadam to the people standing and observing a Kirtan, right? I saw taking prasadam in a plate and individually giving it. I think that's a great idea.
It's nice.
Really nice, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and as of last night, 3,500 people had joined online to watch. So there was quite a few more than just the crowds that were there. Thousands more had joined for the Harinam party online. Go Premanande Haribo Vancha Kapadurvasha Kripasinabhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.